Welcome. You're tuned into Life is a Sacred Journey. Every week, we bring a new perspective to aging and caregiving. Here is your host, Micheal Pope.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Friday. It's been a long week for me. I have had like a lot of ups and downs as it relates to just time. A lot of meetings going on, a lot of stuff happening where I have to be here or be there. And I'm noticing that I'm getting more meetings that are requiring me to show up in person, where we've been doing things on Zoom for so long that I'm finding I'm getting exhausted driving and trying to find a parking spot and all of that. So coming back into the world in such a way is tiring. And so I hope that you're finding time to relax and to rejuvenate. So if this is your first time to Life is a Sacred Journey, we welcome you. Right in the chat, say good morning to the rest of the Life is a Sacred Journey family. We meet every Friday at 8 a.m. and we talk about the issues that are, one, about aging in place, which we all are doing from the moment that we're born, as well as we bring in authors and experts in all the different fields of self-help and just, getting to know each other as a community, cultivating relationships, even in this way. We've cultivated all of you that come to Life is a Sacred Journey have become an incredible family. And so I just want to continue to say, share, hit the share button, get the message out that we are here every Friday morning. This morning, I chose the topic because we're pulling together our end of the year friends to come and visit us to have conversations with. And so we'll have a few more ponderings. And then towards the end of the year, we'll take a little break and resume back in 2023. So, because it's not that far away, believe it or not. My allergies, excuse me. So, let me tell you why I want to talk about ageism, because I think it's important to have context. In my split life, I do a lot within the United Methodist Church, within the denomination of the United Methodist Church. And a part of that is as conference lay leader for the Cal Nevada Conference. And in doing that, I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of people, from little people, brand new babies, all the way to our elders in the church in their hundreds and then some. But I am noticing in dialogue that we're having in a lot of our meetings because of, and I know every denomination is dealing with this, every organization, everybody is dealing. The idea that we need to, recruit, or in the church's case, bring new people into newer and younger people into leadership. Okay. And I've been, trying to balance how I feel about that. And this, I finally came to it because I was thinking about Ashton Applewhite, which I have gone to her old school network. And I really say to all of you, go to that website if you're a part of any organization or group, and really have a conversation about ageism, because it is really in the language that we speak, including yours truly. I was trying to figure out, how do I feel about getting older? Is that something that I'm frightened of? Is that something that I'm fighting against? All of those kinds of things. So I've begun to have this deep dialogue with myself about aging and ageism. And I went to the old school network website. Thank you, Ashton, and all those collaborators and folks that are engaged and involved in this conversation. And it really is about language and a consciousness that when we say, oh, we need people under the age of 35 to be engaged and involved in something, then that's tokenism. And we practice it all the time. We need more of this culture in our work. That's tokenism. Nobody wants to be invited to the table just because you just realized that they weren't at the table and now you want them at the table. It has to be a sincere invitation because of their talent, because of their skill, because they can bring something to the table. Nobody wants to be a token, regardless of their age or ethnicity, culture, any of those things. Again, the topic today is ageism. So we're really focusing in on that one aspect. But when we're talking about ageism, we begin to realize that it's all connected in how we feel about ourselves, excuse me, how we feel about the world around us, and how do we engage in a way where ageism isn't something that we embrace in language or in deed or any other way. So it is raising our consciousness about what it is and to acknowledge that we have to dismantle ageism. And while doing so, we will see the other isms engaging in that place. It is interesting to me as I begin to really look at life from a perspective of the isms instead of pulling one out and deciding that's the only one I want to fight for on any given day, but really bundling them under the title of isms. I'm beginning to see the intersection of them all and where they come together, and one fuels the other and feeds the other, and ageism is just a part of the whole hierarchy of isms. And so we've got to get rid of and discover. I think, that's one of the things that Ashton Applewhite has taught me in her books and in following her in her TED Talks, is that we've got to fight against the stereotypes, the myths, and all of that. We have to talk about the things that we share together. Nancy, I know Nancy's out there this morning. Nancy and I have, we were together, oh gosh, it seems like ages ago, but it was in the early spring, and just sitting down and just talking about life in general and how many things we have in common as women aging in our communities. Totally different communities, not totally different life experiences, but how when you come together and share your stories, you begin to see those intersections. You begin to see those things that make us the same. You begin to break down any barriers or stereotypes that you may carry because they were taught to you through social media or media, because there's many of us that come from television media background, and it was awful when we were coming up because the commercials were very focused towards one culture, the movies, the shows, everything, one culture being shown. And so if you were a person of color, you very rarely saw yourself on television. And if you did, it was tokenism again, and when tokenism happens, it is a different feeling that you get about your culture and yourself. And the same thing happens with age. If the Golden Girls was an amazing show, why was it? Any of you that have watched it, why was the Golden Girls an amazing show for any of you that watched it? For me, it was because they were independent. They weren't, even the oldest of the group, actually more feisty and independent than maybe some of the younger women, but she was alive, she was living, and they were engaging, and they were communicating, and they were having experiences, and those experiences were no different than somebody in their 20s, except for maybe some of the physical things and some of those kinds of fears that come about. I'm sorry, Mike, I'm having allergies. Fears that come about when we get older, like we don't want to fall or those kinds of things, but falling in love, falling out of love, misunderstanding in friendships, all those things are very much a part of everybody's life, no matter how old they are. So how do we dismantle myths, stereotypes about aging and all the other isms? Disability. I was with a dear friend, those of you that follow me on Facebook saw on Sunday, I had the privilege of preaching at Woodland UMC. And one of my dear friends, Susie, attends church there. And so we went to like a brunch thing after. And, we were just talking about how we're so, here I am almost 5'8", tall with my shoes on, and Susie's 4 feet something. And yet we are friends. We love each other. There's no, somebody had asked me about my relationship with Susie because they saw another picture of us together. And the person said to me, and innocently, this wasn't innocent, this wasn't a bad conversation. They said, "Oh, I noticed that you didn't bend down to take the photograph, that you stood up and she stood up." And I said, "Yes, because I honor her for who she is. And I know her now, and we've walked with each other for so long that I know she would prefer for me to stand up." Okay. Now, there's been times when I've been with little people where I think that when we're beginning our relationship, I want to be eye to eye with them. And so I may get down. Actually, I've done that on my knees or bend down or sit down. Now is sit down because I have this sciatic thing. Bending is not the funnest thing for me anymore. But I will get eye contact, of course, with animals, the same kind of thing. But that's also because I'm trying to make connection. So how do we make connection with people who are in wheelchairs or walkers? Or is it we want our consciousness is always making people come up to us, when in fact we should equal the playing field. Somebody, I don't even know who I heard this from, said that you do not have equality when one person is on their knees. It was Toni Morrison. One person is on their knees and the other person is standing up. So you either have to bring the other person up or you have to get down on your knees as well. Not quite the same as what I'm referring to as but the same in my story about Susie. Susie and I have an equal relationship that we totally understand because we've been in each other's company. We've spoken candidly. We've shared our stories with each other. We've loved each other. We've understood who we are. And so then we can move beyond that place of discovery because we're no longer there. And we can now grow in a friendship that allows us to know that we're equal in heart, equal in mind, and equal in spirit. So relationships within all of this is so key, because if the only relationship that you have as you age in place is with people your age, then the equality of that is that you miss out on this multifaceted humanity and spirit of humanity. But ageism is when you make those comments about like, when is that person going to get out of the way so somebody else can do the job? It's when you swap shame with them and say, well, younger people aren't getting a chance because the older people won't get out of the way, or things like that, or denial of where you fit in to all of this. So you have to look at it. So age bias is a prejudice. It's a prejudice, or we call it also discrimination based on age. And we should be against it at all times. If people want to work until they don't want to work or don't have the capacity to work in their jobs, why are we asking them to leave? Because we created a system that depends on people dying and falling out of places and possibly being in another space of need instead of feeling independent, engaged, and involved. I don't know. I used to do this. I remember saying to somebody once, you need to step down from this position and da 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 da. And now I realize that I'm in that space that that's not necessarily what we want people to do. As long as people are engaged, involved, and feeling, and for some people, it's a necessity, because with the cost of our world today, a lot of people have to work longer than they wanted to. We did see a mass exodus of our older working citizens, or people over a certain age, not older, but over a certain age, who retired. Again, language. Every day I'm trying to figure out, what am I saying? How do I speak to age? And how do I acknowledge my own aging? Just the other day, I wrote something on Facebook where I said, not bad for 65. Well, I shouldn't have said I shouldn't have said that, because what does that really mean? I thought about it after I had already hit the send button, but what does that really mean? Not bad for 65. I've never been 65 before, so how would I know if it's bad or good? One, and what was I comparing myself to? I don't even know. You know what I mean? Instead of just saying beautiful picture, or yeah, right on, or whatever. But the fact that folks were saying that it was a good picture, that I look good, I felt at that particular moment that I had to acknowledge that I was older and possibly didn't deserve those compliments. And so I had to say, not bad for 65. When in fact, when I tell my younger folks in my life how beautiful they are, they don't go, not bad for 5. Not bad for 24. So, we got to think about what we do and how we say things, and how we have taken in stuff in our DNA and how it gets blown back out into the world. So it is age bias is prejudice and or discrimination based on age. We know it is against the law, that we cannot do it as it relates to employment, but we know it happens all the time, particularly if you have to, the minute someone looks at your driver's license, or you fill out an application and it asks for your birth, all these kinds of things, ageism becomes a part of our daily construct, and we have to be aware of it so that we can stop ourselves when we're engaging in it. We think about the profitability of age. And now as the world is changing, and we're beginning now, capitalism is taking over in the arena of aging, and it assisted livings, again, assisted livings and places that are more talking about engaging in life and staying engaged and being mobile, and having places that look very different than where people at the turn of the century, where they lived in. Actually, nursing homes and were more like orphanage kind of places, where people who could not afford. It was about being in debt. It wasn't about your age. It was about mostly widows or widowers, didn't have other family members, and didn't have money. So it was more like a debtor's home that they went to. And so as people age in place, and in our society, we would think more of them as convalescent facilities or places like that, and not all of them are bad. When we say things, sometimes it seems as if we're lumping everybody into the same basket. And we do that with ageism, racism, ableism, genderism, sexism, all of it. Okay. And so when we're thinking about convalescent facilities nowadays, not all of them are bad, but many of them are places where people basically do go to die. And so we've been trying, there's advocates that are trying to change that. And I guess that happened, more so during the pandemic, when we began to realize folks weren't getting social engagement, not being able to go outside, not being able to have people come into the building. So defining ageism is in your life or my life is something that we really have to define for ourselves and how we embrace it and what our fears are. When it comes to my fears of ageism, it is about, I used to think it was about death. And then I realized recently, no, it's not about death, because I'm not that afraid of that. In not, I tease and say I'm going to live forever and da 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 da. But I'm not afraid of it. But what it really is the fear of is lack of independence, because I've been told and I have seen independence being taken away from people as they age in place. Okay. Sometimes from loving, caring people who do not realize until that skill set is gone, you should leave people alone and let them engage in their lives. But we somehow have given the story that, because even the way we describe it, that it's the second childhood. Wow. No, it's not. No, it's not a second childhood. It's far from that. But then we're comparing it to the wearing of possibly incontinent material, or the fact that somebody has to pick you up and maybe take you somewhere because you can no longer drive. And so we look at all of those sort of what I call it's the burden mediation, meter. That's what I meant to say. It's the burden meter, the things that you have to do, and you compare them to child rearing stuff. And so that's why, Pete, we've coined it the second childhood, when it's clearly not the second childhood. It could never be the second childhood because of the person's life experiences and knowledge. Children are experiencing many, many things for the first time. So there's no equality there, even in that statement. So again, a stereotype, or the reason that when you say not bad for a certain age is because you've been taught that that age is supposed to look a certain way, act a certain way, and be a certain way. One of my favorite YouTube video thingies, whatever they call them, shorts, are the fashionistas, the fashionistas in New York, and they run the gamut of age. And then there's a group of women who are in the best seasons of their life, and they're wearing all this vintage stuff, and they look just as beautiful, just as attractive, just as fashionable as anybody else. So the age piece shouldn't even speak to it, but it does. It changes the way we look at them, and we talk about their age in the same context that for really all they're putting forth is they love color and that they love fashion, and they, these women know how to buy some stuff, some vintage stuff, but their age has nothing to do with it. I mean, it really doesn't. If you're really applauding their creativity, which I am, and their eye for color and for pulling stuff off of racks of millions of pieces of clothes, and then knowing that it would fit your body so beautifully, and then just putting it all together with all your accessories and stuff, that's just a person that knows how to do the doggone thing. And the age should not be something that is the precursor to the story. We know that a person has lived a good life when they have multiple stories to tell about the different phases of their life, the different seasons of their life. But when we use their age as something to say, we need to do better than that, we need to have a different age than that, if they weren't this age, and it becomes the way that we evaluate and assess their performance and behavior, then that's ageism. Yeah, and I think we all kind of have elements of it in our lives because of the things that we've been taught, the things that we've been shown, the movies that we make, where, they've been making some cool ones sporadically over the last decade or so, showing people in a season of life where they are, but it's usually they are giving up something. They're giving up a home. They're giving up and moving into the stories of independence and lack of frailty and showing that people know how to adapt. You know, one of the things that we are is that we are very adaptable people. And so adapting to the changing seasons of our lives and the changing physicality and all of that. But we need to start by looking at ourselves and assessing, how we feel about our aging journey. So I want to give you a couple of things to be aware of. Again, we talked about avoiding tokenism. That's really important. And I've been trying to fight that in conversations that I've been having lately with people when they say we need to get the young people. If that's the only reason that we are doing it, and we're not doing it because we want to have a diverse community in committees or a diverse community in wherever we're having this conversation, then we need to reevaluate how and why. Because you know why? Because that tokenism will come through in the meetings and they'll be sitting there. You'll have the physical presence. You'll be able to put it on the sheet that you have a younger person, but they still won't feel welcome at the space because it's not an intentional thing. It's a thing to fulfill a quota. We want to be aware when we're taking up too much space and not allowing other individuals of all diverse places to be engaged in those places. We want to get curious. I love this. Curiosity enables us to change our minds and grow. Being curious is amazing. You know, I love when I facilitate women's retreats and I allow in the calendar of the day opportunities for people to connect without using words. And it is always amazing to me, and I think I've done a lot of them now, where people say, wow, you know, it's possible to communicate. It's like, yeah, you know, yes. Okay, let me say this real quickly. I believe that information should be bilingual and written up in as many languages as we possibly can so that we can communicate with each other. I love it that there's El Mundo. I listen to it all the time. I think I'm learning Spanish because I listen and I listen and I can kind of tell what they're talking about and I love the music and the shows and all of that. Okay. But when we say things like, I can't go to this place because it's not bilingual or whatever, or, you know, they don't speak my language or all of that. We need to understand somebody has to break the ice. I've gone to places where Korean was the only language spoken. And I think because my self-esteem is at this juncture in my life journey is pretty okay. I didn't think they were talking about me or anything like that. And when I wanted to know what was going on, I asked. I just said, excuse me, can you tell me what your, and they would, you know, tell me and they would apologize and speak English for a minute and then go back to their heart language and all of that. But I didn't make that like the criteria for enjoying the experience. I enjoyed the experience, you know. I was curious. I asked questions and also opened my heart to understand that because I have friends that have told me it's hard when your English isn't your first language. You fall back on your heart language because sometimes the English word doesn't come to mind, or the way you learned it doesn't relate in the same way to your heart language. So we gotta be open and curious to experiences, even when we don't understand them, even when possibly we may not be understood. We must be vulnerable and lean in to relationships with other people. And young people, again, the generation gap. Remember that? We used to say the generation gap. Well, I here at Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay, we have a lot of volunteers from UC Berkeley that come here, and I don't feel any generation gap from them. I talk to them all the time. They talk to me all the time. There's some of them that have become friends, and so we've got we've got to break out of these places where we think we're not invited. We must get ourselves invited, and we do that through curiosity and asking questions and being engaged. We have to be open to be corrected. We have to be open to that. And I just had somebody help me to understand the difference between sexism and gender, or sex and gender, in this current construct and context of 2022, so that I could really truly understand the pronoun situation that comes and goes in my life. And so I have a better understanding, but I had to be open to be corrected. I had to be open to being vulnerable. I had to be open to being wrong. Whoa. And I had to be open to change. And sometimes you have to sit. I know you've heard this more and more. You have to sit with the discomfort. You have to sit with it and ponder it, like these ponderings. Sit with it and see what it means to you, and dissect it and ask questions and write things down. I have so many journals. I love this. Things we learn in this space, we take out into the world. Things we say here stay in the room. So that's when you're having these discussions to reassure people, to affirm the importance of confidentiality. Because when you have conversations around ageism, racism, and all the isms, you're going to feel some kind of way, and so are other people. And so you want to make sure everybody feels safe, but it shouldn't stop you from having the conversations. I think we were good at it at the beginning of the pandemic, and Black Lives Matter, because we were sequestered in our homes and we couldn't leave. And so the world was coming at us, and we were on fire, and we wanted to march, and we wanted to have conversations and blah, blah, blah. And then as time has gone on and it's become more in the smaller rearview mirror of our lives, we do less and less and less. And what I'm proposing is, how do we maintain a gradual momentum towards the freedom of isms among us, within us, and around us? And that means continual conversation, continual engagement with individuals. All those books and movies that we read and saw during the last 2 years, let's put them into practice. Let's assume good intentions, but don't be afraid to point out problematic statements or ideas. I think it takes courage. I think it takes courage to point things out when you hear them in a way about, how does this make me feel? How is it about me? Is it about, what is it about? And really assessing it, and step back and then speak up from your space and from where you sit, and don't bring a lot of other people into it, meaning you're speaking for a group of people. You are always just speaking for yourself. This is my experience. This is how I see it. I want to understand, because then it becomes about what you're taking in and how you're going to manifest change and all of that, not only within yourself, but as you learn these things, how you go out and show up in the world. And you don't have to always be in a tone of disagreement, that just because it's not your experience, just because you've never known anybody to have that experience, to doubt another person about their feelings and all of that is not good. It really makes people feel like they don't want to be involved, and they can't be involved, because then they can't bring their authentic self to the conversation. This is a great question. We're getting to the time for me to leave you, but I love these questions, and I've seen them before in other things, but I want to give them to you. to put down in a journal somewhere or to write down somewhere. So over the next season of your life, to begin to think about them and to really begin to have conversations in your little groups. We all have little groups that we're a part of, but in order for the world to change, we have to change ourselves and then bring data about our change into the groups we live in. We want to talk about when did you become aware of age? How young were you? How old were you? What was that about? Was it a grandparent that you realized that was being said, something was being said about them, and that you realized that they were older? When did you first realize? I saw a commercial, and I think I talked about this at another Pondering, and it was American Express. And it was a commercial where the kids and the parents were talking about where they were going to spend, I think it's summer vacation, so it's been a while. And they showed a grandmother in one of those little duster thingies, and she was making a sandwich on like Wonder Bread, cut it in half, put it in front of the two children. And the comment was, "Is this how you want to spend your summer vacation?" Fast forward a couple of seconds, the family is in Cabo or the Hawaii or somewhere having a really good time. But guess what? Grandma's not with them. That's ageism. So to have a vacation, a summer vacation where grandma means a cheese sandwich on Wonder Bread, cut in half, her in a duster on the opposite side of the counter, and no fun, no gaiety, no joy. American Express comes in and convenes, and the family can now have a vacation where the sun is shining, the beach is nearby, and they can do their thing, but grandma's not with them. I would have loved that commercial if everybody had been together and grandma came down bringing some kind of cool food from a restaurant somewhere, instead of what that said. What that said was, there's no fun at grandma's house. There's no ability for joy at grandma's house. But if we go on vacation somewhere else without grandma, we are going to have the best time of our life. And we wonder why we have ageism. It's because that's what we're teaching. So if a little kid happened to be in the room when that commercial came on the television, as I was at somebody's house when I saw it, because as you know, I don't watch television. I don't know what they would have got out of that. And if you've seen that commercial, write in the chat and share with other people if you noticed it. I may be, I'm so social conscious and social justice minded about everything. When I see it, I look for ageism. I look for the subliminal messages. One, I also have an advertising and marketing background. That's what I went to college for my BS degree, Bachelor of Science. And I know, because I used to do that stuff. And that stuff, is subliminally messaging to you that grandma should be left at home and you can only have a good time. And they may not have done it intentionally. Again, when something is so inbred in a culture, it becomes the way the culture does its thing, and we soon don't see it. So when we want to talk about, I'm going to give you one more question to take into your group. How might ageism, okay, let's go back. Share a time you experienced or witnessed any kind of job discrimination in your life, and how might ageism have played a role in that? Looking back, is there something you wish you had said or done during that time? So those are two things. When did you become aware of age in itself? Like, how old were you? What was the experience? Was it you Was it about you as a young person or older person? What was it? Or did you observe it? And then how did it make you feel? And the other question is, in a work environment, where have you seen ageism? And looking back at it, what did you wish you had said or done? Or did you do something? Did you do something? And the last question, the question I am asking myself and pondering still, and we'll continue this discussion, and maybe we'll bring Ashton back for it as well. What worries you most about getting older? What worries you most? And it doesn't matter what age you are, but what worries you most? Because if you're 5, what worries you most is that when you go to first grade, that you get to go with your best friend. So everybody has something. So what worries you most about aging? And also, what gives you joy as you have been aging? What does that mean? You know, what does that mean to find joy in every season of your life? So the US population is going to continuously get older. People get older every day. There's birthdays being celebrated on Facebook while you're here with me. And at the end of the day, it is about language. It is about how we feel about our own aging. It is about all the isms, because they intersect together, whether it be racism, ableism, ageism, all of it. They intersect. How do we come together as a humanity and really begin to just have joy about every season of a person's life, every piece of your life to have joy about? So as we end and we go into oh my gosh, another weekend. I am excited. Tomorrow I am going to be sharing in a Missinali, and I'll look it up so you can see. It's a celebration of the harvest of a group of families, and I'm just very excited to be a part of their celebration every year, where we get to just celebrate, as I said, the harvest of the families that attend this church. So that's wonderful. But there are those of us that are going through a lot. And some of us, it's little stuff. Like me, it's allergies. For some reason, I have allergies galore, waking up with them. But for some of us, it's deeper than that. It's you think you don't belong, and you haven't had a seat at the table, and you're feeling despair, and suicide is the only option that you think you have. If that is the case, and that is you, I'm speaking to you, we are speaking to you from Life is a Sacred Journey. Get a phone, find someone, dial 988 or 1-800-273-8255. And there will be a voice on the other end that says, how can I help you? And talk you through, stay with you, find you resources. Your life matters. And if you are someone that is out there, I don't know if your life is so bad that you're feeling angry and angst, and you're thinking about doing harm to others, stop. Call the 988 number and let them get you resources. You please don't take your life, and please do not go out and take the life of another person. Life is precious, and it deserves to be treated in that way. So as you go out into the world today or this weekend, hug a tree, pet a cat, pet a dog, and hug yourself, because life is a sacred journey, and it is marvelously wonderful. It has its ups and downs, but it's also pretty precious, because we get to have friendships. We get to be in community with each other. Have a great weekend, and thank you for joining Life is a Sacred Journey. I'm Micheal Pope. It's so good to be with you. Have a great weekend. Peace.